Gotta love her.
Robot voice.
All right, Facebook's gonna load. I'm gonna exit out of it. Okay. All right, then I sent the invite link out, so we'll just keep letting people in, but you can go whenever you're ready, Ms. Paul. I'll just let people in as we go. Let me share the screen here.
Yeah, you have to pull up the handout.
Bam. And then, oh, there we go. Okay, hang on. Yeah, beautiful.
And we'll just keep going as we go.
Yeah, I think I can. Yeah, we're good. I can scroll. Okay.
Okay. Well, today I wanted to talk about self-care. This is something that I see a majority of my clients struggle with, and just people I know in general, friends, family, struggle with self-care. And I think we have a lot of misconceptions about what self-care is. So I thought it would be important to talk about. And then I'm going to give you some suggestions on some of my favorite practices of self-care that are simple things that you can start to implement into your daily routine just to help improve your sense of well-being. But when I talk about self-care, I'm not talking about bubble baths, massages, you know, the things that people think of self-care, that's what they think of, like, oh, I need to go get a pedicure or something like that. And I think it's really common for people to have that misperception. And I think in our culture, self-care is kind of looked down on because we live in a culture that really values productivity and hard work, kind of pull yourself up from the bootstraps, you know, the more you can get done, the better. A lot of people cut corners as far as sleep and things like that, just trying to get everything done. So when we tell people we're taking a mental health day or we're taking a day off, sometimes we feel guilty about that, like as if that's not something that we should be doing. So today we're going to make a case for self-care. Now, the first type of self-care that I'm going to recommend that I love, and I've mentioned it before, is meditation. And I know people do not like meditation. I did not like meditation. I used to hate meditation. I've tried it throughout my life and I really, really struggled with it just because I'm such a busy person. I call myself like a hummingbird. I'm always going. So the idea of just like sitting still for 20 minutes was torture. But I started incorporating meditation anyways, because there's so many health benefits associated with meditation. I mean, physical health benefits, mental health benefits. It's being researched and proven to help with so many different diseases and chronic health conditions. So I can't make strong enough case for it. And then also just my own personal experience, it's been a big game changer for me. It's helped me so much with so many different things. So I highly, highly recommend it. So how do we do this, right? How do we tackle it? A really easy way to start meditating is to download an app. So there's apps like Headspace, things like that, that are guided meditation. So you really don't need to do anything other than put your earbuds in and find a quiet place. And you can do anything from like 5 minutes to 15 minutes. There's also different music meditations you can find in iTunes, all different things like that, that you can start to work with. So even just starting with 5 minutes a day, like taking a 5-minute break to just be reflective in the morning and then maybe 5 minutes before bed can make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely recommend working your way up from there, because for me, it takes at least 5 minutes for the voices in my head, the chitter chatter, the thoughts to kind of calm down so I can get in a more restful space. But the more you practice it, the easier it gets to do. So again, I can't recommend it enough. And I know so many people are resistant to it, but I promise if you give yourself 30 days, right? 30 days, I'm going to try it and see if you have any benefits from it. I definitely recommend it. So let's move on from there.
And then one thing on meditation, and I think, guys, it's so important. I started doing it myself. And I mean, obviously, if you guys know me, I'm not, all into all that stuff, but I will 100% say that it makes a huge difference. So I started with 5, like Paula said, and I did it in the morning. I completely agree with that it takes at least 5 minutes or longer before, like she was talking about, kind of like voices, you think about what you got to do that day or all this other stuff to actually kind of like subside. So I would definitely recommend it. Coming from personal experience, it's something that I've implemented almost, not every day, we're getting there. It's like 5 days a week so far. And it's made a huge difference. It's just sit there and be present in the moment in the morning. And, it really helps you self-reflect. I haven't tried it at night, but just trying it in the morning before I start my day, it really, really helps me get in a good headspace. And it really helps me kind of start the day on like a calm, parasympathetic state, just calm. And I think it's so many people, we're so rushed in the morning, we don't take 5 minutes or even, doing it before we go into work or whatever it may be. And just to kind of set yourself up for the day, you know what I mean? And kind of decompress before you go to bed. Like I said, I haven't tried that, but it sounds like it would work great because for the morning, from somebody that's never done it, it's done wonders for me. So I would 100% agree and recommend it.
Definitely. I notice myself more patient with my children, with my husband, just in general, with the days I meditate, and my family can tell the difference, like if I miss it. So that's another good indicator. Like, Mom, did you meditate today? Like, why are you so grumpy? So it does make a big difference. The next one I highly recommend for self-care is journaling. So again, a lot of people think of journaling, they think of like when they were in high school and they wrote like, "Dear diary," and that's not what I mean by journaling. So I think of journaling similar to meditation as a chance to kind of reflect on what's going on in your life. It's a good chance to kind of connect with your emotions and your feelings, your stressors. You can journal about your relationships. If you have goals, you can journal about your goals. Like, how am I doing towards these goals? Was today a successful day? Where did I struggle today? And just like with meditation, there's so many products out there that you can find that are guided journals. So you can find fitness journals that are guided fitness journals that will ask you specific questions related to what you're working on and kind of guide you through that process. But again, I think it's something that makes a huge difference. And I highly recommend it to all of my clients just to take the time to do that so that those feelings and emotions or circumstances don't kind of go off the rails. It just helps us kind of keep an eye on the things we need to keep an eye on, if that makes sense. So you can keep a prayer journal to like turn over worries or things that you're struggling with. There's so many different ways to go about it. I've mentioned before with intuitive eating, keeping a food journal. So kind of different than the food log you keep for Gauge, but a food journal, if you struggle with emotional eating, would be a journal where with each meal, instead of writing your macros, which is something you're already doing, writing how you're feeling before the meal, how you feel after, kind of any thoughts associated with the meal. Are you feeling guilty? Are you feeling stressed? Were you able to be present? You can use your hunger scale ratings. So that could be another way that you can use journaling related to your relationship with food. So anything like that. Again, it's just a really powerful self-care practice that I highly recommend to all my clients across the board, no matter what they're dealing with. So next up, I have play. So I am always amazed by how many adults have forgotten how to play, right? We don't remember how to play. I didn't know how to play, and I had to kind of relearn how to play once I had kids, which was, I was kind of surprised by that. But play is a powerful way for us to reduce stress and anxiety. So I think a great place to start is to start to reflect on what you did for fun as a kid. Did you like to spend time in nature? Were you more of a builder or tinkerer? Are you crafty? Were you into dancing, animals, games, puzzles? I have just a bunch of different options there. Mini golf, trampolines. Don't underestimate trampolines. They're super fun. Crafts, all those things. So I think trying to plan something small that you can look forward to every day is a great way to start. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be 5 minutes. And then at least once a month, planning something like bigger, or even trying to get that in on the weekend, like a more fun play activity. So I know that this is something that can really, really help people if they're struggling with stress and anxiety. I know, Gage, you're working with some coaches, and they've even recommended to you as far as expanding your hobbies and having fun. And I think a lot of times we're so focused on work and we're so focused on being productive and accomplishing things. And even our hobbies become other forms of being competitive or trying to accomplish things that we neglect this, just playing for having fun. So not feeling guilty to take an afternoon to do a puzzle, right? I mean, it's not productive. You're not accomplishing anything really, but it's so good for your mental health. So I can't stress that enough. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Next, I have assertive communication. So we've talked about boundaries in here, But I think one of the most powerful forms of self-care for my clients is assertive communication. So learning how to communicate effectively. A huge source of stress in our life is our relationships. And a lot of times that boils down to having ineffective communication patterns. So some people communicate passively. Those are the people that don't speak up for themselves. Some of us are aggressive, where we're, the people that speak up a little bit too much for themselves. And there's passive aggressive, which we all know, the person that kind of takes the low blows or makes the snide comments. So the goal is to learn to communicate assertively, which is to speak up for ourselves and communicate in a way where we're respecting ourselves and respecting other people. So we can definitely do a whole course just on assertive communication. I've done staff trainings on assertive communication, and I work on it with all of my clients. And I think it's something that's really important to learn. We don't really get taught this. And unfortunately, a lot of times we don't have good role models for assertive communication. Maybe the patterns of communication in our family were not great. I think a lot of times in our culture, women are kind of trained to communicate more passively. And then a lot of times they end up becoming passive aggressive, which is really unattractive. So again, really just learning how to speak up for ourselves and communicate can alleviate so much stress in our relationships. So that's a huge self-care practice that I recommend for people. Next, I have taking care of our bodies. So this is obviously very related to your work with Gage, but this is a huge area of neglect I see just in clients and family and friends. And when I say taking care of bodies, I'm not talking about like killing it at the gym or trying to get that 6-pack like Gage posted about abs today. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about trying to eat mostly whole foods. We've talked about that many, many times here. Drinking enough water, that's so important. A majority of people are walking around right now dehydrated, not even realizing. I don't know the exact statistics, but I think it's like 90% of people are dehydrated.
It's bad.
It's really bad. And that is a stressor. So that creates stress for us. And a lot of times we eat when we're actually thirsty. So that can be a huge deal. Getting enough movement, getting those steps in, keeping our strength, especially as we age. If we neglect, building our strength and maintaining our strength, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of difficulties as we get older. Having to be dependent on family to take care of us, things like that. So that's super important. Honoring sleep. Sleep is huge, you guys, and so many people neglect sleep. This is the common place that we cut corners, is sleep. Like, I'll just stay up late and get it done, or I'll just wake up early and get it done, or I don't need my sleep, trying to fit everything in, or I'm gonna just watch one more episode, right? We've all been there, but we need our sleep, and sleep is super important. So I see clients neglect this all the time, and it creates a lot of stress. So this is a huge part of self-care, is just taking care of ourselves, taking care of our bodies, making sure we're doing the things that we need to do, just the basic self-care to be healthy.
Do you think, Paula, obviously, like, we assign clients step goals. So outside of like the weight loss perspective of it and, the movement and your metabolism and all that cool stuff, do you think that like getting movement goals in every day, not only with like a sense of accomplishment, but the actual like psychology behind getting up and like walking or moving or in getting outside, getting sun, wherever you walk, whatever, but the concept of it does have like a psychological benefit to it as far as like self-care?
Absolutely. I think it has benefits across the board. Psychologically, it kind of gives us a chance to catch our breath, to get away from things. Like, they've done studies with smokers, people like who smoke, and they go take a smoke break every hour. And when they take away the cigarettes, if they still have that pattern of behavior of getting up from their desk and going outside and just breathing deep, it can have the same benefits as far as stress reduction that they were experiencing with smoking. So really, it's not even the smoking. I know that's part of it, but it's just getting up from their desk and taking that break, taking 5 minutes to kind of reboot. So I think it's super important. And I think we also forget that we're animals and our bodies are designed to move. We're not designed to sit at a desk, and we're not designed to necessarily be in a position like that all day. So across the board, I think it has a lot of great benefits to just keep moving. So this is a huge one, you guys, self-compassion. This is something that I think we all struggle with. So self-compassion means basically having a attitude of love, respect, and care towards ourselves. So self-compassion has a lot to do with how we talk to ourselves. Most of us are our own worst critics, right? I think if you start to pay attention to how you talk to yourself, you wouldn't talk to your best friend that way, right? You wouldn't say the things that you say to yourself to other people. So I really encourage my clients to start to pay attention to how they talk to themselves. If they make a mistake, what is their internal dialogue around that mistake? What are the thoughts that they think? What are the things that they say to themselves? And then start to try to replace some of that negative self-talk with self-compassion. So instead of like, oh, I'm such an idiot, I can't believe I did that again, something along the lines like, hey, I tried and I didn't do it exactly how I want to, but I'm learning each time I try, right? Just that small shift and speaking to yourself can make a huge difference in how you feel, your emotions, your emotional state, and just your sense of well-being. So again, trying to think of talking to yourself how you would talk to a friend or a small child, right? I think it's kind of shocking when we start to pay attention to our internal dialogue. Like, can you imagine saying something like that to a small child? Most of us would be like, no, I would never, ever do that. I even have some of my clients that really struggle with shame and self-loathing. Keep a picture of themselves as a child with them throughout the day. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but sometimes we can't have self-compassion for ourselves as adults. So sometimes we have to start with that image of ourselves as a child. So that's an exercise that some of my clients use to kind of build that. This sounds like I can't do this, like I can't have self-compassion, that could be a place to start, is to dig up a picture of yourself as a child and start like, I'm talking to this person, I'm not talking to the adult me, and start there. And I promise you guys, I know I've said this before, but no one has become a happier person or achieved their goals by beating themselves up. It just doesn't work. We're setting ourselves up for failure when we are harsh and critical and mean with ourselves. So this is a huge piece of being successful with your goals and your lifestyle transformation, is learning to be compassionate with yourself, learning to be loving with yourself. And not only that, is it improves our relationships with other people, right? So if we're feeling good about ourselves and kind to ourselves, we're more likely to be kind and loving towards other people, and also less dependent on other people to meet our emotional needs, right? So we're not always going to be looking for other people to prop us up, because we're already taking care of that for ourselves. So next I have something that probably a little bit different than what you expected, and that's to do something scary. So we all love our comfort zones, right? But this is not where we grow. So I encourage you to pick something each week. You could even do each day if you're feeling bold, that's outside of your comfort zone, and do it. It could be talking to a stranger in line at the grocery store. It could be signing up for a race, learning something new, confronting that difficult coworker with your new assertive communication skills. But as we face our fears and overcome them, we build self-confidence. So challenging ourselves is a huge part of self-care. I think it's really important for us to continue to grow. We're not here, I don't believe we're here to just be comfortable. I think we're here to grow as people. And so challenging ourselves is a huge part of self-care. And then last but not least, the most important one I recommend to my clients is service. So finding a way to serve other people. And so you might be thinking like, what does that have to do with self-care, right? But I promise you, when you serve other people, you will feel amazing. Like nothing feels better than doing something like a small act of service or a random act of kindness for someone that is not called for. Just doing it to do it. It feels amazing. If you're in a bad mood, if you're having that pity party day, I promise you this will turn it around, complete 180 in an instant. I like to do little random act of kindness campaigns where, like, up to a major event like a birthday, I'll do like a countdown and do one every day, just because I'm kind of OCD. I like to have that structure, but you could do this however you want. You could pick a couple a week, or you could try to do a small random act of kindness a day. It could be, something as small as picking up trash next time you go out for your walk and throwing it away, or something like buying a coffee for someone in line behind you, or opening a door for someone, or helping the old lady across the street, or, doing something to surprise a neighbor. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but those acts of service are going to make you feel wonderful. I promise you that. I recommend making a list. You can, again, I know I mentioned Pinterest a million times, but there's lots of Pinterest. I have a act of kindness Pinterest board where you can get ideas of things that you can do to kind of put this into your life as a regular practice. But I promise it's a form of self-care that's going to make you feel great. It's going to make you feel good about yourself. It's going to help you feel like you're contributing to the world instead of just taking. So I highly, highly recommend it. And then another option is to find issues that you feel passionate about, or areas like if it's animals, or if you feel passionate about the environment, or childhood obesity, whatever the topics are, the things that really get you fired up, those are places that you can start to serve and make a difference in. So there's a reason why you feel passionate about those places. And the best way to feel good about it, like you're making a difference, is to start working towards that by volunteering or serving in those communities. So those are my self-care suggestions, kind of a list of my top ones that I recommend to clients to start to implement in their lives. And I promise you that if you can start to have these practices in your life on a regular basis, it's going to help you with your goals. It's going to help you feel better about yourself. And again, they might not seem directly related to the things that you're working on with Gage, but I think they are all related to them in a certain way. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. I know I kind of powered through them. Gage, do you have any questions?
No, I mean, so the do something scary ones is pretty cool. And like a lot of people don't realize, a lot of the newer clients that we do have, I had a client that we signed on the other day, and I actually posted her check-in form. And literally on that form, it said, she was like, she's a little bit uncomfortable, she's a little bit scared because it's something new. It's something she hasn't done, but, she enjoys the benefit of it, and, she sees the benefit and the value. So, but it's still the same concept. It's still scary. So, a lot of the people that are in the Facebook group asked us a lot of questions, and asked me a lot of questions, particularly in, you guys just need to understand that it's okay. It's okay to be scared. Like, it's okay to feel a little bit of, like about asking a question, or, hiring a coach, or, saying, you may need to talk to a therapist. That's all scary things. That's okay. You're not alone. I promise you, you're not okay. You're not okay. You are okay. You're not alone. There we go. You're fine. It's completely normal. You're not weird. You're not an outcast. You're not going to look like you're like, oh my God, like I'm weak. It's completely normal. We see it all the time. And like I said, that just really was cool, because, she told me specifically in her application that she was a little scared, and that's okay, because it was just something new, and it's kind of uncharted territory for her. But it's just important you guys understand that you're not alone, and it's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All of these things are normal things for people to struggle with, the self-compassion piece, the self-care, just the daily self-care practices, assertive communication. The reason they're on the list is because these are the things that we all struggle with, right? Play. Like, when was the last time you just really let your hair down and had a lot of fun? I think all those things are things that people struggle with. So.
And, for you guys that are watching the call, and even the people on the call, I know you guys can only see me talking on Facebook. A lot of these things, like, I've had to implement myself, and the call's not about me, and the call's about you guys. But again, it goes back to my point that I don't want you guys to feel like, if you don't do these things, you're like some weirdo. Okay. A lot of these need to be implemented. It takes constant work, and it does. It takes constant work of having to adjust, learn what you like to do, learn what works for you, learn what de-stresses you. Like Paula said, for like playing, learn what you like to do for fun. These are all learning things, and that's okay. Like I said, just because you don't have the answers, it doesn't mean like you're a weirdo or anything. It doesn't mean you're alone either. I know for like me particularly, like journaling. So I started keeping a gratitude journal, and I've done it for months. It's been really awesome. So along with, we talked like the meditation earlier. I'll every morning, like clockwork, I'll write down 5 things that I'm grateful for. And it tends to keep me, as I've seen over time, keep me in more of a positive mindset, a positive state, because like, even if you have a bad day or something happens, you wake up the next morning, or you can do it at night, really, whatever's easier for you. And, you write down 5 things you're grateful for. And the more you do it, the more things you'll see that you are grateful for are positive things in your life. So, I mean, that's just something that I've had to implement in my own daily activity. So, like I said, it's not like you guys, if you don't have all the answers to these, and you're like, I don't do any of these. That's okay. I mean, to be honest, like I didn't either. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why that group is there. So you guys can see that. You're like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Or, that's why Paula's here. If you guys have a resource or something that's out of my area of expertise, that I can always refer, to her, or we can do a topic on, or a video on, or whatever you guys need for a resource. Uh, I thought the play one was cool too, honestly. Like, that one's been really hard for me. I mean, Paula knows that too, just because I work so much. So that's something that I've had to change for myself. You know what I mean? That I've had to find things that I enjoy doing that are outside of the gym or outside of work, and disconnect. And I think that's so hard for people, especially working from home now, when we have clients that they're not able to have a separation. It's like work and home are now meshed. So
Mhm.
it's like, a lot of people struggle with that, guys, and that's okay. But it is important that you have some type of decompression and something that you like doing that is fun. And like Paula said, you're probably not going to be productive doing it. You're probably
Oh,
not. I mean, Paula and I have Jeeps. I'll get in the Jeep and I'll go on a 30-minute drive. Nothing productive about it of any definition, but that's okay. It's something I enjoy doing, and I enjoy being outside and enjoying having that Jeep. So
mhm.
that's just something, and just finding something fun that you guys like to do. And like I said, that's so important. And I think so many of us now, especially working from home or stressed from work, as adults, like Paula said, we forgot how to really have fun. Except, you might have the one girls' night, or the one birthday, or the one pool party like once a month. Like, no, like this should be a weekly thing.
Definitely, and it's definitely something I struggled with too. I mean, I come from a family where work ethic is a big thing, and I didn't see my parents play. My parents were all about the work and getting things done and being productive and being serious. So I think it's culturally, it can be really, really hard to, like, I felt really guilty. Like, I'm not being productive. Like, even, doing things like taking a nap, like that was like, what? I'm allowed to take a nap? That sounds crazy. So again, these are going to be uncomfortable for you guys. These are things that are probably going to be outside your comfort zone, but I really encourage you to give them a try and give them a go, because it will help you with your stress management and your well-being in so many ways, for
Oh,
sure.
I completely agree. I had another question. All right, well, this is actually, none of those were questions. This one actually is a question. Um, how important do you think, and I mean, I know we could do a whole video on it, like you said, but like, how important do you think assertive communication is for like self-care? So do you feel like you see that a lot with clients that aren't, like you said, kind of very passive?
Mhm.
So, they kind of feel, whether it's in the workplace or their relationships or whatever, friend circle, that you kind of feel like this is a really important underlying cause that a lot of people don't do.
For sure. I think in all of our relationships. So, like, if I'm really passive and Gage is my coach, and I'm really having a hard time with something that he's prescribed in my program, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm passive and I'm afraid to say something, that's going to impact my results with you, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Or the same thing would apply to, like, if I was really aggressive and I communicated with my family in a super aggressive way, it's going to shut down those relationships and kind of close down conversations. So
Mhm.
it's a huge one. And again, it's something that we're not taught. Most people are not taught how to communicate assertively. So a lot of us fall in one of these other not ideal communication patterns. Let's see, I have a question. It's sometimes one-sided. Let me pull it
All right. So with assertive, well, I'll just read it. With
up. Okay.
assertive communication, is it sometimes only one-sided? If I'm being assertive and the other person isn't, how can I keep that line open?
Yeah, of course, we can only control our side of the street, right? So we do the best that we can. And sometimes we have to kind of coach people on how we want to be spoken to. So that can be kind of hard too. But let's say I'm communicating assertively. with someone and they're being aggressive, I might have to set a boundary and say, like, I really want to talk to you about this, but the way you're talking to me right now doesn't feel productive. So can we figure out another way to have this conversation, right? Are calling people out, like passive aggressive communication sometimes can come across as really, I don't know, that's kind of, for me, it's kind of a hot button. So if someone's passive aggressive with me, I can say something to them about it in a respectful way. Like, I understand that, I get the feeling that you're frustrated about me by the comment that you just made, but I don't feel like it was expressed in the most respectful way. So can we try again? Right. So you're kind of calling them out. Like, I get that you're being passive aggressive, but asking them to kind of reframe it. But yeah, it can be really hard. But again, we can model for other people, even if we feel like a broken record sometimes, of how we want to be spoken to, and also by how we speak to other people. So that's a really good question, Kara. But yeah, it's hard to be the one that, has those skills, but all you can do is the best that you can do in your relationships.
Using not only in coaching, guys, but using feedback is huge. And let me explain when I say that. And it's something else I've had to implement with clients, and I've had to implement in my own relationships, is it's okay to have a sort of communication to speak your mind, but if you look at it in like a feedback manner, that's not a bad thing. So like a really good formula to do is to be like, okay, I always ask permission. So I'll give you guys an example for coaching. If I have a client that's not following the protocol, or they're not hitting their steps or their workout, whatever, I'll be like, hey, can I give you some feedback? I'll literally ask. And this is just a client in a business setting, but I'll also do it in my relationships. So like, hey, can I just give you some feedback real quick? They'll say yes. If they're having a bad day and say no, we just want to make sure that we push that out to less than 24 hours. Like, all right, cool. Can we talk about it at this day and time, or this hour after dinner, or whatever. So anyway, I always ask permission. Then I'll state a fact. So if it's a client, okay, you're not getting your steps in. That's a fact. There's no emotion tied to it. There's nothing tied to it. It's not debatable. It's literally a concrete fact. After I state that fact, then I'll give feedback. Okay, well, if you're not getting your steps in, we're not going to get the results we want, and it's going to kind of derail everything. So we need to get back on track. Feedback, not necessarily negative feedback, not necessarily positive feedback, but it's not demeaning. It's not being aggressive. It's not anything. It's just a sort of communication. I'm saying, hey, this is the fact. This is the feedback, and that they just go together. I'm not being, demeaning or anything about it, and then the next, how do we fix it? Yeah. And I've literally had to re-implement that or implement that in my life and all across the board, relationships, business, clients, everything. And it's had really, really good results for me. So that's just a personal experience that fits into communication, like Paula was talking about, that you guys can take and implement. And it's a little awkward, I'm not going to lie, to implement it with people. But once you get used to it and kind of get the flow with it, you can categorize and communicate very effectively, especially when something bothers you. Or like Paula said, if it's a hot button, or you're not setting boundaries right, or you need to set new boundaries, it works very well. So that's something I would definitely recommend you guys try. And then I saw the chat went off. I think there's a lot of confusion in assertive communication and aggressive communication.
Absolutely. Like, I think that's a huge misunderstanding. So a lot of times when I work with my clients and I'm like, okay, we're going to work on assertive communication, they think I'm going to make them into this like super like alpha aggressive B word, right? And I'm like, no, that's not the goal. That's not what we're talking about. So assertive communication is different than aggressive communication in that we're being respectful of the other people we're talking to. Aggressive is kind of like bulldozing people, like it's my way or the highway. That's more of the aggressive communication, where assertive is speaking up for ourselves. And sometimes if we come from a passive background, and I see this a lot again with women, where we're kind of culturally conditioned to be more passive. So assertive communication feels extremely uncomfortable for most of my female clients. Like it's really uncomfortable for them. And that's why I think a lot of women do fall into passive aggressive communication patterns. Mm-hmm. So like, let's say I have a client who is having issues with her boss, but she's afraid to speak up to her boss because she doesn't want to be seen as high maintenance, or she doesn't want to be seen as difficult. Right? So we can role play on, okay, how can we communicate what you're experiencing assertively, in a way where you feel like you're expressing yourself and communicating your concerns, but not in a way where you're being aggressive, right? So again, I think it's a fine line, but I think it's all about taking into consideration, like Gage said, the feedback from the other person in the process, right? Aggressive, we're not thinking about other people. It's just we have to say what we're going to say. And I think, again, it's something that we can learn. Even people who struggle with aggressive communication can learn to communicate more respectfully. And that, so they're kind of coming from the opposite. If you think of it on continuum, they're kind of coming from the opposite direction.
That makes sense.
But if you guys are interested, we could definitely do like a whole, like I said, I could do a whole training on assertive communication, because I've something that I've done a lot of work with clients and just staff trainings, like I said, because again, it's something that we don't learn in school. It's something that most people don't even realize that, oh, I didn't even realize this was a thing. This is something that I need to work on. Most people don't even realize that it's a thing to work on. So
yeah, I think that'd be really good. I'm trying to think if I have anything else. I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything else, Miss Paula, off the top of my head? I might think of something. I don't know.
no, I think that, again, like, just, you don't have to tomorrow like implement all of these things. That's not realistic. But maybe just say like, okay, this week I'm going to try meditation. Or maybe next week I'm going to read a book on assertive communication. Or maybe I'm going to work on having some more fun in my life. Like maybe that kind of hit home with me and I don't have fun. And I see that as self-indulgent. And that's something I can start to experiment with. So I encourage you guys just kind of dabble in these and see how they feel and kind of expand. And for the self-compassion piece, being gentle with yourself and going easy with yourself and not expecting it to be perfect, right? To be flexible. I think that that's really important. So.
And then I'm going to upload this document, guys, in the Dropbox file. So if you want to like print it or keep it at home or keep it on your refrigerator, desk, whatever, then you'll be able to have access to it and print it out. That way, unless you are taking notes, you can do it that way too. But it's going to be in there and available for you guys to get and download.
Definitely. And then for Monday for Gage, I was telling Gage that we're going to do like gym myths, common like myths that clients have around fitness and nutrition, like the big ones, the common ones that we all hear. So if you guys have anything that comes to mind, like, well, I always thought that was true, or is this true? Send it my way and we'll include it in the list. But I thought that would be a good topic to put.
Carbs are bad.
Yeah. Or like, I have to eat within right when I get home from my workout, because otherwise I'm gonna lose all my gains. Like those types of things, you know, the things that are so perpetuated that we get so much of our health information and nutrition information from resources that aren't really science or data based. So I think it'll be good for us to have some time kind of busting some of those myths.
Can I buy my protein at Costco?
Yeah, no, please don't. Unless you're planning on preparing it and cooking it. It's a different story.
Literally. But no, I don't have any other questions, Miss Paula. Like I said, we're live on Facebook. So if you guys, again, as always, have any comments or questions, or you want to shoot Paula those over, just drop a comment below or like it, share it, whatever you guys want to do, or shoot us a message. And Monday, like I said, or what Paula said, excuse me, you know, we'll do gym myths, bro myths, gym myths. I don't care where they come from. You guys can ask me something you read in Cosmo. I don't care. Like, I mean, saw on Pinterest, saw on Facebook, Instagram, magazine, whatever. Because there's a lot of them out there. So if there's everyone you wanted to be like, man, I wonder if this is true, send it over to Paula and she'll put it on the question sheet and we'll go over it.
Yeah. And that being said too, if you guys have topics you want me to cover or questions that you want me to address, you can send them my way too. I'd be happy. I'm always open to ideas of what you guys want to learn about, what you guys feel like you need. Just send it my way and we'll tackle it.
Absolutely. I don't have anything else, Miss Paula, to you?
No, I'm good.
Sweet. All right, I'm gonna stop screen sharing. And then I'm gonna put that up for you guys to have access to. There we go. So just give me a couple minutes and I'll put it up there. But other than that, I'll see you guys Monday.
Sounds good. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Bye.